This is the 416 podcast. This is the interview series. I'm Wayne. Sitting down to me with today is Ted Brooks, and I'm grateful for Ted. Known Ted for a long time, and good friends. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hang out with me a little bit and to invite us here this week. I know Cindy's doing a ladies' day for the congregation here, and that brought us to the area. But I'm just glad we get to catch up and hang out a little bit. For those who may not know you, if you'll just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, a little bit about your family, and where we are maybe.
Okay, yeah, I'm Ted Brooks. I'm the minister here at the Madison Church of Christ. I've been here with my wife Kathy since 2018, late 2017, early 2018. Memphis School of Preaching graduate, and we are. This is our first work, actually second work if you consider the work we did while we were students as well.
Sure.
And so we have been privileged to be here. We watched this whenever we got out of school. We watched this position. We kept an eye on it, and there's a little background and history there, and we may get into that a little bit later on. But we kept an eye on it while we were traveling around and touching base with all of our supporting congregations and traveling around the country. And we went down to Central America, to Panama for a few weeks. And when we came back, the position was still open. So we came, we applied and we were invited, and we came and we preached here, and they invited us to join. So we've been very, very happy to be in this work with them.
It's a great congregation too, and they've been very sweet and kind to us, and so I'm glad. We've traveled through this area, coming either from Georgia to West Florida or something like that, back and forth through this little town, this beautiful little town. The live oak trees everywhere. It's your typical North Florida little town, right? As far as just with all the little older houses and stuff like that, and so it's a quaint little town, but it's a beautiful church, and so I'm glad that you're here, and I know that y'all have had a good time with the congregation here, and they've taken y'all in as family too, and that's always important for longevity as well too. That helps. So let's talk about Memphis. You mentioned being a Memphis grad. So what year you graduated in? 17?
17, yeah.
Okay. All right. And so you're a little bit of grayer stature than most guys that come through the school.
Grayer stature, yeah.
I'm trying to be nice, man.
But my plans prior to Kathy and I deciding to go to the School of Preaching was to grow my hair long, pig it, get a Harley, and ride around the country, because I was kind of footloose and fancy free at that time, probably much to my chagrin, but it worked out that way. But after answering the gospel and studying the gospel with Leon Wisham for so many years, and then when you came to become the minister there at the Gulf Breeze Church of Christ, things kind of clicked and fell into place. And before I knew it, Bobby Liddell was there for a visit, and he had a history in that area anyway. And so eventually things fell into place, and we ended up at the Memphis School of Preaching. And late in life, 55 or something like that, 55, 60. About 60, I guess it was. So I was the oldest student in my class at that time, but not the oldest student.
It's not the oldest.
Been to Memphis School of Preaching.
That's right.
But that was an interesting change for me, and there's a story behind that. Whenever I fell in love with the gospel, it's just, and I don't have a favorite book. It just seems that no matter where I am in it, there's just something that draws me in and wants me to continue to tie. And I guess in a lot of ways, I see correlations between the Old Testament and the New Testament that may be in my imagination, but I see things that are. I see the consistency of God in his relationship with man and his relationship with and the personages that we see and how consistent they are with each other, and it gives me a lot of comfort. It gives me a lot of stability, in that I can always rely on God being who God is.
Yeah, that doesn't change.
And that never changes. But in any event, and I've said that, and I got off on that tangent, went down that rabbit hole, and now I forgot where I was. But after studying with Brother Wisham, I felt that it was just, I needed more time than I was going to get 30 minutes here and 30 minutes there. I could have studied for 10 years, but what we decided was that immersing ourselves in the concentrated study that we had at the School of Preaching was going to be necessary. And I had no idea that it would be like trying to drink water through a fire hose, the way it was.
Comes at you fast.
But it was necessary, and yes, it was wonderful, and it was stressful, and it was frightening, and it was exhilarating. There was a whole range of emotions that you go through when you're in that. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind all the time, and probably the younger students were not as aware of that, is that you're in a bubble when you're in that kind of an environment. And then you get out into the real world, and you have to remember that there are other people out there who just don't see the gospel the same way that you do. And so that's a challenge. And so a lot of younger students can get discouraged, and of course that's part of the reason that you are doing the work that you're doing, is because you gotta kind of find a way to keep it real, but also keep it purposeful. And so I the thing that I probably learned as much as anything else is that purpose for 50 plus years of my life, purpose was missing. And without purpose, without God's purpose in our lives, we don't have a true sense of who we are, and a true sense of our impermanence in this world, but the permanence that we have available for us with God. And the dependence that we have upon Him at that very same time too. So I mean, that's what the Psalms, most of the Psalms were all about.
Absolutely.
Especially David's, dependent upon God for those things that he had. And of course we know that Job was all about dependence upon God as well.
That's right. So, well, I know, and I remember talking to you when we came to Gulf Breeze, and you were studying with Brother Wisham regularly, I think weekly, or maybe twice a week, I can't remember, but it was something that impressed me early on about you and your desire, your wanting, your digging, to get into the Word. And of course, Brother Wisham was just eating it up. He was loving, in his older age to be able to mentor someone and help someone that much more. And he had regular Bible studies, and so that was even at, I don't know what he was in. He was close to 80 when I was there. And then he had
the Grahams, and then he had Bill and Elaine. He studied with them, and there were several groups. There were at least four different groups that he studied every week.
That's right. And so he had at many times he was having more Bible studies than the preacher was.
Right.
So he had been there quite a long time, so that certainly helps. But when you're someone like that to have as a mentor is a huge help. In any congregation. He was always just very encouraging to me as well too. So, but I remember when you were, when the idea of going to school was coming about. I remember the conversations. Well, I haven't been in school, and I haven't done in long,
forever.
Regular education, a long time, kind of thing, and just thinking about, but we went when we were 35. So it was not your typical time frame. Also, for us when we went, wasn't 60, but it,
Well, I mean, 35 is kind of in the sweet spot because you really already had some experience with the gospel and had some experience with preaching, and then it was time for you to go and kind of pull it all together. And so
Yeah.
for you, it was a pull it together kind of a moment.
That's right.
For me, it was trying to concentrate a preparation. At my age, I didn't have. I mean, I pray that I'll have 20 more years of.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
opportunity
I
to
remember
preach.
the conversation, and for you at the time especially, it wasn't as much as I want to get out and be a pulpit preacher, though you are.
Although I don't consider myself to be, I much prefer teaching. I
Well,
really come alive when I'm teaching the gospel, but preaching is teaching.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the point being that you just wanted to go and fully immerse yourself in the school and to grow and to learn that, and so that was what a blessing it is. And then to be able to, but the thing that we always find is that you go through that and you're like, well, I need to be using this, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, but all right, let's talk about Madison, Madison, Florida. So we're probably a little over an hour maybe to Tallahassee on I-10, and the other direction to Lake City is probably an hour.
Yeah.
So you're kind of right in the sweet spot, right in between them, and Valdosta's almost maybe 45 minutes.
40 minutes away.
Yeah. So you're kind of in a nice little triangle of an area, which is good for the congregation for travelers through.
Right.
And so I always like to point out, if you're traveling through this area, you're not far right off the interstate, just a couple miles off the interstate, and so it's a great spot to start, and it's a great congregation to check out, and an opportunity for you to come by and encourage the congregation here in Madison, Florida as well. But let's talk about the work itself. So you've been here since
18.
18, and so in that time frame, certainly you've had opportunity, and you guys are certainly busy in the community, working in the community, and there's a lot of contacts certainly through that, and so you've immersed yourself in the community as well, and I think that's important for the church in the area. But let's just talk about the work here. I know it's got a long history. Talk about maybe the not just what brought you to Madison, what stood out for you, but a little bit of the history here, and then the need that is here.
In the congregation.
In the congregation.
And Jim can give you probably a little bit more background in that than I can, but this church has been here since the 60s and 70s. Okay, and it wasn't here in this building. It started out, of course, in a little brick building down the road here, just a small. It was like a 600 square foot brick building, and it grew. But at one point it was down. It grew, and then it got smaller, and it was down to 2 men, I think, and 5 women in the congregation at one point in time. And then it started to grow again. They managed to have a minister that came here. They've been through several ministers, and they even had I think an eldership at one time. But it got so small that it didn't hold together. But they've been here. Oh, I mean, Jim will tell you he's 8th generation Floridian. I mean, I used to pride myself in being a 3rd generation Floridian, but he's 8th generation. Now most of my family has been 4th or 5th generation from South Georgia anyway. So we were from this area.
Right.
But this church, they got this building when there were some. I don't know if you were aware that one of the congregation members. You remember Copeland Sausage?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Copeland family was a member of this congregation. Okay. And they own the sausage factory up in Georgia.
Yeah.
And they sold that out, and they had family from the Mariana area, and they moved to the Mariana area to take care of them. And so we lost the Copelands, and we lost a number of very more or less affluent members of the congregation.
And the Copeland
moved away.
Spread family is still
Everywhere,
in South Georgia too. There's a bunch in the Valdosta area.
They're all over the place.
So, that's right.
So So they helped us to. There was enough financial support that this congregation was able to buy this church, which is there's another history. If you had it at the 30 minutes, I could give you the history of this church. But this church wasn't a Church of Christ. It was a Presbyterian church that split over segregation, and the older folks kept it. But eventually they didn't have enough financial wherewithal to hold together the mortgage, everything, and went back to the bank. And then a lady bought it and turned it into a bed and breakfast wedding destination. She lost it back to the bank, and the bank finally gave us a really good deal on it, and enough of a deal that money came through to pay off the mortgage in 18 months. Wow. And so this church, we essentially own it. We pay for the upkeep on it, and that's a true blessing for us. And we're able to kind of hold our own, and of course I was, with my retirement income already, I was able to between what the church is able to afford and what I make, we don't starve. So we're in good shape there. But Kathy works, so that keeps us busy. But it's been this. And
sometimes and sometimes those are necessary things, especially for situations where. Because one of the things I know, we've talked about this, sometimes, our younger preachers get stuck in a position where, they're barely making it.
Right.
And they don't have that extra income. You have a Navy retirement, and Kathy's, of course, still working and everything too, but that certainly helps offset that. But also wisdom coming into a smaller congregation and situation like that. I think that's something too to being mindful of our younger preachers, and they're putting them into situations where needed more of a mature minister to be able to come in and to work with those kind of situations. So
unless you're around here all your life.
Unless you're here.
Jim is a guy. Jim, one of the first things Jim did for me was to get me involved in the Rotary, so that I could get involved with some of the, it kind of helped with the family ties. And of course, Kathy joined the Lions, and that helped her with that. But getting into a community like this and fitting into a community is a real challenge. But now the congregation was always welcoming, and one of the things that I love about Jim is that Jim does the hard part. When I do something that is out of line or causes a problem, Jim sits down and he does the uncomfortable stuff, and he talks to me about it and tells me how if it's something that bothers him, he will let me know one-on-one. I have a lot of respect for that. Jim is he's kind of folded in. He's kind of like an advisor and an ersatz dad and a brother at the same time, So he has and of
it's
course
always good to have someone like that you can rely on.
There's so many exciting things about a congregation, things that I learn. I learn a lot from Jim. I learn a lot from Myron. I learn a lot from about Myron's one of these guys that kind of he teaches himself. When COVID hit, we started out with just a little phone, and we were recording, and going out online, and Myron got involved, and eventually we built up the presence that we have now, and he taught everything. He learned everything he taught himself, or his grandkids taught him how to do that. So you know how that is.
I do.
A little help from Rob.
A little help from Rob.
What would you want folks to know about the Madison congregation if they're looking for a home congregation, or if they're looking for a place to come and maybe plant themselves for a couple months at a time if they're working on from the road?
And we have a lot of people that come here, and it seems to be that people will early on in their lives when they're raising their families, they have a tendency to move away because there's not much here. Madison was a hopping place before they built the interstate. Madison was like it was like the capital, but not the capital. We actually had a governor who would ride a train car to Tallahassee and do half his work going to and from Tallahassee on the train, and he'd get there to sign whatever papers needed to be signed, and then he'd come back home. So we had a governor that actually lived here in Madison at one time.
Nice.
And so, but it was it's been a hub because it is so central. It's basically halfway between. I mean, it's on its way between Jacksonville and Pensacola. It's almost halfway there.
Yeah.
I won't call it the town that time forgot, but if it's a place, there's a place you want to go to get away from the world. Well, this is it.
Yeah.
And you're close enough to other places that when you want a little bit of city, well, you can go to Valdosta, or you can go to Jacksonville, or you can go to Tallahassee. But this is a
and
great
10 minutes
place
off
to
the interstate
come
is all,
and kind of catch your breath and recollect, kind of regroup in your life. And so, this congregation never knows a stranger. We are seeing people that travel down here for wintering over, or they travel north when they're traveling. They make this their stop as they come back and forth. And so we have a lot of transients that come through and visit with us. But even though they don't live here, they look forward to making this a stop along the way.
And that's always encouraging too. So when you have those folks pop in.
And we always tell our family and friends that we keep a place open, and our house is just a few blocks from the church too. So we always have room for people to visit.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, it is a lovely congregation. The town is, like I say, it's picturesque. What I grew up with, knowing about North Florida, and of course I closer to Lake City in that area. But it's live oaks. It's what you would expect, and there's a gazebo right, somewhere.
We have Four Freedoms Park right up here,
right down the road.
And it's interesting
Right
to note. I don't know if that's something that Kathy told you about, but we have a sculpture there that was actually commissioned for Franklin Roosevelt. Is that right? The sculpture, Four Freedoms.
Yeah.
And they moved it down here, and so it's in our park right now, and there's a lot of national history here. Of course, Colin Kelly. We have the Colin Kelly Memorial. We have the Colin Kelly Parkway here, but Colin Kelly was a resident of Madison.
Oh yeah.
And he was the first American to die in the Second World War.
That's right.
First
That's
World
right. I
War
know I was supposed to know that
pilot.
name. I was trying to think through my history. I know that name. Where was it? Okay, that's right. Yeah, World War II.
See, a lot of this land around here is 1812 land grants from people who served in the war.
Yeah, that's right.
My family's buried at San Pedro Cemetery, was the original county seat in 1800. There's a veteran of the American Revolution buried in that cemetery.
Oh wow.
It's just a lot of history.
Yeah.
But
well, even I always think, and that's something that I've always loved about Florida. Being from Florida, and having that connection, was there's so much history. There's so much, even dating before the country. There's so much that you find. So it's pretty amazing. But thank you for sitting down. Thank you for a little bit of history lesson as well. If you're traveling through and can visit the Madison congregation, I hope that you will. Ted and Kathy are here doing a great work. There's several lovely families that are here that would love to have you and love to hug your neck when you come in the door. And so I hope that you'll come by and check them out. Make sure that you check out the description, the show notes below. We'll have information for their Facebook page, their YouTube page, and all that as well, all their links. And you can check them out, give them some support, and help them out as well, and grow their channel a little bit. They're further reach in the spreading of the gospel. And Ted is a great teacher, and so I know that you'll love to tune in and check that out as well. We'll see you further down the road.